if someone were to ask you, what is game publishing? Like, just define it. What are we talking about?
I think of it as like the parts of delivering a game to market, like the commercialization of a game in the marketplace. So publishing used to once upon a time mean also the financing of a game. It doesn't always mean that anymore, but typically it means the strategic side of how are we going to find an audience and build a community and get people to like and buy this thing. So marketing and community building. And then there's like the operational side of getting your game QA'd and looped and distributed on platforms, building relationship with first party. And there's sort of the partnership side and between those two, which are like, what are unique opportunities for my game to stand out in a specific platform or ecosystem that I could benefit from, make money from. Yeah. So I think of it as like the pieces of shipping a game that are not making the game.
So when you've seen that go really well, um, like what caused it to go really well? And when you've seen it go really poorly, like what causes it to go really poorly?
Yeah, I think from my point of view, first and foremost is like having a shared understanding of the goal is kind of where success starts from. And so where I've seen that go well looks something like we are on the same team, we are aligned with what this game is and like what the market opportunity is and how much it's going to cost, and we both understand like how those things pull against each other and how that tension is important to keep in check for us all to succeed. I think where it's gone poorly is game developer thinks publisher is mean and evil and like doesn't, it only cares about money. Publisher thinks developer doesn't care about money and is just like a silly creative. And there's like a lack of respect for both sides. And in my experience, that comes from like sort of this lack of like clear vision for like what are we all doing here. Um, I'm a big, huge fan of like super well defined goals and then creating systems to accomplish those goals, both on the creative and on the execution side. And where I've seen things, I think devs typically think of goals as the player does this thing, like a player focused thing
Hmm.
without the other piece of like weighting that in the market opportunity or basically the time constraints. So a better version of that goal is we deliver this thing to this audience within this timeline, and those constraints and opportunities mean that we all get to keep doing this as jobs together and have like built a successful base for a business.
Right. So, so I'm going to ask a chicken and an egg question. Does the animosity lead that divergence and dysfunction between the two groups as like, or is it the other? Is it like, oh, the fact that we sort of have different things that we're thinking about, does that just lead to the animosity? Like which comes first in your experience? And some, I don't know if that even makes
Yeah,
sense, but like, yeah, how do we get to the place where there is a chasm between the two?
I think time and maturity. I mean, I think our industry is still relatively immature and going through sort of those like fundamental maturation phases now. I think people have been doing it a long time. Like I started with this, the creative auteur position of game creation came with like a certain deference to the creative side and kind of like the suits against the creatives and like lack of the we've got to work together. But I think the market dynamics are such now, like it will become not a choice. And
Mhm.
so it will come with more awareness and success of what it looks like to have a more like integrated partnership and relationship through game development. Um, your background from Riot, where you're essentially a self-publisher, I think is more of like the version of success insofar as like those teams are integrated. It's not seen as like a separate entity.
Yeah.
And the experience that I've had is the closer and closer you bring the teams together on throughout game development, beginning at the very beginning, like at the green light process, but getting clear about the ways we all engage and the benefits of us engaging the whole way through. That over time, I like we share success, and then therefore we share respect, and we're in a more virtuous circle of game dev versus the more I don't know, conflict driven version.
I think one of the things that is fair to say is historically the publisher tends to hold the budget. And that's not, like you said, that's not always as true now. but they used to
Right.
be like, look, they've got the money, they're funding everything. And so they kind of have the power. If you lead teams in game or software development and you're tired of wasteful and unreliable estimation, I've built an online course just for you. It's called Advanced Estimation for Game and Software Development, and it's a self-paced course with over 15 hours of content, real-world examples, and tools you can start using right away. Estimation doesn't have to be a morale-draining mess. Planning doesn't have to feel unrealistic and contrived. You can do better, and this course will help. Early access is now open with lifetime access and a big launch discount, but there's limited seats at this price point. Check it out at this URL or in the show notes below.